Welcome back to the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast we bring you each and every week on the upper tier as part of the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions of the show are available through Anchor. And if you'd like to contact the show, you will find us on Twitter at Sessions Shankly. Joining me tonight, my partner in crime, Dean. How we doing, my man?
Couldn't be better, my friend. Could not be better.
Craig's away this week, but he'll be back next week to join us as always, making up the trifecta of the Red Men, if you like. Let's get straight into this latest news. We covered the other night on the fixtures when the Premier League fixtures came out there. Not too bad a start for us, but a tough enough old Christmas.
Yeah, it's always nice to get it again. Not a slow start, but it's always nice to get fixtures where you're kind of more confident. Like if you're to get, say, Man City, Chelsea, or teams like that at the start of the season, you're kind of like, all right, it's kind of ass to the grass from day one. When you get like I don't want to be overly cocky, but Norwich, Burnley, Chelsea, and Leeds. I think Leeds will be the toughest out of four of them. You can get 6 points out of first two going into the Chelsea game. We're home against Chelsea, so I'm quietly confident of getting 9 points out of those first three games. It's the Leeds away, a full Elland Road is going to be a big game. Kind of pans out evenly across season. But as our good friend Darren McCumsky told you play everyone twice, so it doesn't matter where you play the best four teams in the first four games or the last four games. You have to play them anyways. And the way I look at it is, you get them out of the way early, and you have a good points total out of those games. The steam train is rolling smoothly then. December is a tough one. We always seem to get Wolves around the start of December. Yeah. And if we're kind of running well, we get the win. But away from home, the fans in the grounds again, it's going to be massive. But the next 5 games are make or break, in my opinion. Villa, Newcastle, Spurs, Leeds, and then Leicester. Leeds on Stevens' day is going to be, make sure you're off work on that day. Yeah. That's going to be a royal piss up. And then
I love the intensity of the Christmas period, but as I say to people, I'm not the one doing the 90 minutes every 2 or 3 days.
You know what I say about Liverpool, and we've seen it the last 3 years. Well, not necessarily last season, but the 2 seasons beforehand. We seem to do, that's when we play our best football, when the games are coming thick and fast. We went off to the World Club Championship, we came back, and everybody was like, now they're going to fail. And we didn't. Yeah. We just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. I think we won 6 or 7 on the spin. We scored umpteen amount of goals. We didn't concede many. And I think that's when Liverpool played our first football, the best football, is when the game's coming thick and fast. Players, like, at times you do get tired, but players want to be playing as regular, as often, and if we can start off that month with 3 points against Wolves, going into that Villa game, we're at home to Villa, and I think we're at home to Newcastle, and then we're away to Spurs, quietly confident. I'm always going to be confident in my own team, but I just, get them fixtures out of the way to start. Burnley is always a tricky one for Liverpool. Chelsea, we owe them one for the game at Anfield last season, and then the league. Look, even if you're in neutral, if you're not looking forward to Liverpool and Leeds, you're watching the wrong sport. I'm buzzing for that game.
Absolutely. Good news this week for fans like us who have to travel across the water to Liverpool. Anfield getting the go ahead for the expansion. Another 7,000 fans, bringing it up to 61,000.
Yeah, surely we can get a ticket now for the game. So, it's going to be awesome, isn't it? Because the talk was back in the day that we'd have to knock down Anfield and rebuild to make to build a new chapter in the club's career. And credit to FSG. At times I've spoke what would be the word I'd be looking for about John W. Henry?
Ill-willed
toward. Now, I didn't want him dead, well, unless I would kill him. But the way they've gone about it has been fantastic. Just means extra fans in Anfield, the hallowed ground. The cop will always be there. They're probably going to just add on to that It looks the artist pictures of what it's going to look like when it's done and all. We were the last time we were there for the Everton FA Cup game. We were the opposite side to the new stand, and you're just looking up, and it's just endless. And it just means that there's another 7,000 people singing "I'll Never Walk Alone," or the fields of Anfield Road, or Mo Salah. It's just I can't wait. And the fact that it's already in movement, that it should be done for the start of the 2022-23 season, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's gonna fly by, and hopefully we'll be there for the first game in the following season.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of being at the Watford game right up the back of that Kenny Dalglish stand, and
5-0 win in the snow,
up in the clouds, man. But well worth it. Let's move on. Our good friend Fabrizio Romano released his potential starting 11 for Liverpool as he's seen it, with two changes. He has Konate in there instead of Joe Gomez, and he has Basuma in there. But reports came out this week that Basuma doesn't fancy a move from Brighton quite as far north as Liverpool. So he must be looking around London, which means we've started looking at Niall Mallon.
That's strange, isn't it, though, for a player who's kind of lit up the Premier League and he's got so many suitors and all. And Liverpool, even though we had a bad season last season, still getting Champions League football. But the 2 seasons previous being probably in the top 3 teams in the planet, and like a player, I don't look if he doesn't want to sign for Liverpool, and that's the reason, or he wants to stay closer to where he is at the moment. Off you go, pal. For me, that's as bad as saying that you're not giving me enough money. If a club like Liverpool comes in for you and you don't fancy that, to me, you haven't got the balls to do it, pal. That's what I take from that, because I tell you what, whether I was a Liverpool fan or not, if Liverpool came knocking on my door, regardless of where I was, I'm sitting up and I'm saying to my agent, right, let's see what they can. Well, I'm not at that level yet. Let's see what we can get, and if I can get anything towards a number in my head, I'm happy to go there.
Yeah, it's a weird one, all right, but I know Arsenal are very interested in him as well, and maybe he's looking at it and thinking maybe a move to Arsenal, he would be playing more game time and stuff like that now, as opposed to if he went to Liverpool. Maybe that's kind of swaying him a little bit. But I think a guy of his talent, if he goes up there, if he puts in a shift, he'll get into the side pretty quickly. He's a very good player.
That's it. I'm very disappointed at the talk. But as I said, I kind of let his name go over my head, because we've been talking about Tielemans and Patson Daka and stuff like that, and I kind of forgot all about Basuma. So look, not going to wish him unwell if wherever he goes. I hope his career works out the best and all, but I'm not going to lose sleep about him turning down Liverpool. There's plenty of bigger names that are in the picture for Liverpool after us getting top 4. So, my mind is in the clouds now as to my expectations for this season. And if, Konate is the start, if we were to get, we're linked with Tielemans, Milinkovic Savic, and who was the other one we were talking about?
Niall Mallon.
Niall Mallon, and your man Newhouse. That's the names that excite me, and not necessarily East Basuma.
Yeah, and most of those guys aren't too concerned about geography.
No.
But however, let's jump into the transfers. Tsimikas will be allowed to leave this season, which I thought was kind of a weird one. But Fabrizio Romano was reporting that he was going to be given the go-ahead to leave. I would have liked to see him get more involved in terms of laying down a marker there as a bit of competition for Andy Robinson.
Yeah, I heard today, though, now that James Pearce was saying that Nico Williams wants to leave now after qualifying for the knockout stages with Wales, that he wants to go somewhere and he thinks he can play every week, and Liverpool won't look to replace him because there's a young lad coming through at the academy that's really caught the eye at right back. Plus, you've got Joe Gomez to cover right back now that we have Konate and Matip is back, and Nat Phillips is probably there. But James Pearce was saying now that Liverpool won't. If Tsimikas wants to leave, he's more than free to talk to new suitors, but they've told him they want him to stay, so it's kind of the ball's in his court. Again, like with Basuma, if you don't think you can push Andy Robbo out of the team, off you go, goodbye. But take a chance.
I never really have a problem with that when players turn around and decide that they want to leave because they want more game time. I'm good with that. Because it shows a bit of ambition, you know what I mean? Yeah. So That I'm not too worried about. It's when they leave for other reasons and stuff
I
like that.
just don't want it to be another deal that doesn't work out because look, you were saying with what's his name, the Japanese fella, I can't
Minamino.
Minamino. Then if Samiskas goes without barely playing a minute, Keita hasn't necessarily worked out. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't want to see a pattern of that. You know what I mean? I'd love Samiskas to stay. You know, have a good pre-season. Robbo's going to come back probably a bit more fatigued than others because he's just an absolute lunatic. It's all in, you know, or nothing at all with him. He's going to need a rest, you know. Hopefully talk Samiskas into staying. Seeing how he fares in pre-season. If he plays games in pre-season and he turns around right at the end of pre-season and says, look, I really want to go, then okay, fair enough. But I'd like to see him just fight for a spot. You know, just look at Robbo. Robbo didn't exactly set the world alight when he first came into Liverpool, and look at him now. You know, he's in the top 5 left backs in the game.
Absolutely. Leicester City again. Fabrizio Romano reporting in the Guardian. Leicester City very close to signing Patson Daka. This is one I'm kind of disappointed in. I thought we might get this one. But again, I wonder, is he looking at game time? Is he going to get in there? Has he got that desire to go in there and fight against a Jota, Firmino, Mane, Salah, all that kind of thing? You know what I mean? And I just don't know. I think when you have that collection of those 4 guys, it's going to be very difficult to sign a forward, isn't it?
You know what I think about this, Niall, is why do players sign for Man City and they're not guaranteed to play every week? You know, is it because of money? It really paints a picture in my head. I know the talk is of I'm going to Leicester, but this is the way I look at things like this, right? Liverpool are looking to sign you. All right, fair enough. The 3 boys up front and you have Jota there, okay? Man City are looking to sign you. No one plays every week except probably Kevin De Bruyne when he's fit, okay? And Ruben Diaz and Ederson, okay?
Yeah.
Why do players go to Man City for say 30 or 40 or 50 grand extra a week and know that they won't play every week, but then Liverpool come in with less money because they're not going to give you 200 grand, 250 grand. You're probably going to start on 90 or 100 grand a week. Why can you not go to Liverpool and take that money and fight for your place? And then for me, option B there is Leicester because Vardy is going to play every week. Iheanacho was going to be buzzing from last season. So I really thought this was going to happen for Liverpool. I genuinely thought, I'm very disappointed this hasn't. But as we were talking about before we came on, if we're going in for Daniel Mallon because we're not going for Patson Daka, I'm perfectly fine with that. I've been watching Denzel Dumfries and I've been keeping an eye out for Daniel Mallon. Now we started today. He got an assist, but he was very lively. He came on the other night and he got an assist as well. He's very, very good on the ball. He's very young. He's not going to cost as much as Patson Daka did. He's it's not much of a risk. He'll get because we have Jota there now as well as the other 3. You know, he'll just get time to blend in. He'll be like Robbo. He'll be like Fabinho. Jota, we got fortunate that he came in. Like that was out of blue, the Jota signing. He came in and banged in goals for fun. And I believe had he not been injured for the amount of time that he had, there could have been another 10, 12 goals on top of what he did score.
And I suppose that's not to say that we still won't sign Patson Daka. I mean, he's not signed to Leicester yet, so we still might want him and we still might go in for him. But it's an interesting one in terms of Liverpool's profile now, isn't it? Because when you think about it, if you remember, years ago, if we were in for a player and we had to settle for number 2 or number 3 or number 4, the devaluing of the quality and the talent as you move down through those stages was huge. But now, if you look at it now, you know, Basuma we're interested in, but if we don't get Basuma, we're going in for Daniel Mallon. If we don't get Daniel Mallon, we're looking at Patson Daka. If we don't get Patson Daka, we're looking at Neuhaus. We're looking at all these different players. We're being linked with really top quality players. You know, we're not going from, say, Patson Daka to Paul Konchesky, you know, the way we used to. We used to drop so far down, you know.
You mentioned all those names there, and people forget that we're still going to sign Kylian Mbappe. Like, you know what I mean? It's just the standard we've set.
Absolutely. We touched on Daniel Mallon anyway, so let's do a little bit of player watch. Our player watch of Euros. Safe to say, Liverpool players at the Euros are doing really, really well.
You know the one I'm disappointed for him, But the one I'm happy about is Spain leaving Thiago out of the team. I'm just like, I am perfectly fine with that. He comes back wanting to prove a point to Luis Enrique now at the start of next season, saying, man, things could have been so different. I said after the first game with Spain, that midfield three doesn't work. It doesn't. You have to play Thiago behind the front three. It just does not work, those three in the middle. They're the exact same player. So for Thiago to be left out of the team, it's a selfish point of view, but I'm absolutely perfectly fine with that. But everyone else, yeah, anyone that's there, like, other than Gini Wijnaldum, because he's not a Liverpool player anymore, he's on fire.
Isn't that the weirdest thing ever? Like, the guy
Yeah.
can barely score a goal for Liverpool, goes plays for Holland, and he scores for fun.
Dave Maddox done a piece on it last night, and he was saying, last night I was reading it this morning. He was like, do you know what I find really strange is Liverpool fans now. You know I love Gini. You know what I mean? So underrated workhorse. Is the Liverpool fans that when he was at Liverpool hate him, didn't want him in the team. Goes off to the Euros. Now they're tweeting about why did we let him go? He's absolutely phenomenal. And I'm sitting scratching my head and like, are you the same Liverpool fans that like were packing his bags and willing to drive him to wherever he wanted to go? Is like he's always been that type of player, but he just plays more forward with Holland. Like he's been absolutely outstanding.
Yeah. Well, see, first of all, as well, they have to remember we didn't let him go. We made an offer. He left. We didn't push him out or let him go.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we
This
offered
was
him a
his
real
decision.
good deal.
He looked at he'd been the champion of everything at Liverpool. There was an offer of Barcelona there. Bayern Munich were interested, Inter Milan. So there you have Barcelona, right? Just narrowly missed out on the Liga. Bayern Munich won the Bundesliga. Inter Milan won La Liga. And he's ended up at PSG, who've been a dominant force in France. You know, they narrowly missed out on the league by a point this year. So it's not as if, you know, it's a different story. Like you're leaving Liverpool and you say Fulham, Watford, Burnley, and Southampton are the only four teams, and you're like, I think I'll stay at Liverpool. When you have teams like that after being so successful and being such an integral part of the team, I understand why he left. You know, he wanted to go off and see if he could do it at that level. No, not saying that they're a higher level than Liverpool, but with the teams that were mentioned, you kind of find it hard to say no when you've won everything in England.
It's a different challenge. You want to win in a different league or experience a different culture or whatever it is, which is fine.
I think Paris would suit him down to the ground. It's kind of the capital of fashion, you know, and he loves his designer gear, and you can just picture him living that lifestyle over there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, adios to him.
Plus,
Just didn't appreciate
there's no doubt going to PSG, he'll be successful. There's no doubt about it.
Just didn't appreciate when all this talk about the agent saying when the Euros is over, we'll say exactly what went on. Put it to bed. He's moved on. Doesn't need to come out.
Absolutely. Diogo Jota having a real good Euros. The man is on fire. Even though Portugal had a bad result against Germany the other day, even though they were unlucky with 2 OGs and stuff like that, but Jota in every game looks like every time he breaks, he's going to score. He could have 3 or 4 in every game at this stage, you know.
So lively, and to have a player like that, because I guarantee the boys off the Liverpool front three, well, other than probably Mo, are probably watching as much of the Euros as possible and saying, this fella doesn't let up, does he? You know what I mean? He was out for so long injured, he came back in and he's just, it's like he never out of the team. I'm absolutely buzzing for him, because there was talk now that there was talk after that game that him and Ronaldo had fallen out. And apparently by the time the game was over, they'd kind of put it to bed. And, you know, Ronaldo knows that he needs more than him to get Portugal to win the Euros or even get out of that group now. And look, it's another game where Bruno did absolutely nothing, but this is a Liverpool podcast, so I'm not going to sit here and slate Bruno. But Diogo's definitely sat up and made his presence count. So buzzing for him. Any Liverpool player at the Euros that's doing well at the Euros is just going to bring that form into the Liverpool team.
I love Jota's work rate for a front man. He chases everything down. He never lets on, so he just gets stuck in. He's awesome, you know. Man that we spoke about last week in the preview games, Scotland came running down the hill to Wembley like William Wallace and Braveheart, and the only thing that Andy Robinson wasn't wearing was the blue war paint. But boy God, did he put on a performance there the other day against England. Unbelievable.
He's really proven everyone wrong, hasn't he? Because there was a time in last season where people were like, he's kind of peaked. Him and Trent, they kind of peaked. He came into his own at the end of the season. That run Liverpool went on with the 10 wins and 2 draws, and he's just kind of continued on into the Euros. Yeah, and then you see him at the press conference there yesterday with the Iron Brew. He's like, "What's this? Get out! Get out!"
Yeah, he relishes the captaincy, doesn't he?
I just think he just relishes. He just loves that story of like, I came from nothing.
Yeah.
And like, I've won the Champions League, I've won the Premier League, I'm playing at one of the best teams in the world. Scotland are never going to be world beaters at a major tournament. I've backed Scotland not to win it. They're not going to win the Euros. I said all along that when it came to that England match, it would tell, and it did tell. Like Billy Gilmore, Andy Robertson, like Grant Hanley, everybody, each to their own, just stood up without Andy Robbo. I'm telling you now, if there was a wall built the same text that when you made contact with it, it was going to explode, but to get the ball on the other side, he's going head first into it. He
loves the
he's the epitome of it, isn't he?
He loves the battle of being in the middle of the battle of the match, Awesome, yeah. Wilson came on as an 85th minute substitute, and Williams again in stoppage time for Wales against Turkey in Baku. Don't seem to be getting an awful lot of game time, but don't seem to be doing a whole lot wrong when they do come on. And Wales are starting to show a little bit of signs of recovery because they started out fairly slack. But now they're starting to look a bit more like they've a bit more about them. Bale looks like he wants to kind of play at this stage now,
Well, we didn't think that they were going to get out of group, in fairness, and now they have. So it's kind of the shackles are off. There's no pressure on them now. I think getting out of group stages was that target, and now they're over. And look what they did at the last time around, getting to the semi-final. You know what I mean? Knockout games. It's all on the day, like.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, but for Harry Wilson, I thought he should have started the first game. I can't even remember the guy's name that played on the right side of the middle three. I never even heard of him before. Just think Harry Wilson can create something. He's lethal on the set piece. But this again all comes down to Gareth Bale wants to take the kick outs, the throw ins, the corners, get on the end of the corners. He doesn't let anybody have anything else. He is Mr. Wales, and that's probably why the things that Gareth Bale offers are the things that Harry Wilson offers. Gareth Bale just offers that 10-15% more.
Yeah, absolutely. But we can't but not love Shaqiri, can we? I mean, I know we talk about how we want to upgrade our bench and stuff like that, but he always does a job, doesn't he? And like in that Switzerland team, he's absolutely pivotal. I know he was unlucky. I mean, he started for Switzerland in the 3-0 defeat by Italy. But I mean, he scored 2 there the other day as well. Like he's just
2 outstanding. The second goal was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just sometimes he just creates those moments, doesn't he? And
he makes you think. We were talking. I think it was off air. We were talking about you kind of have to move on and you want fresh, exciting ideas coming into the team. But then he goes and has a game like that, and you think to yourself, why can you not just do that every week at Liverpool? Why are you always injured? Why is always talk of you're unhappy? He came on the first year at Liverpool, he started off the season. He came on against United, got the 2 goals. The game against Barcelona, he was outstanding. And I'm just thinking to myself, why can you not come back to Melwood, sit down with Jurgen Klopp and say, Jurgen, I want to give everything here. I might necessarily play every week. I'm not guaranteed anything, but I want to push on and see if I can even push those lads to a new level. Whereas I know I've given everything and I still couldn't do it, only because those lads have bettered themselves, because they've realised there's someone at the door knocking on us saying, I want to play. See, the thing with Shaqiri is he knows he can play it every week somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily at like a Man City or a Chelsea. It'd be far-fetched just saying that I think he'd get into the Man United team. If the way he played last night for Switzerland, if he could produce that every week and stay fit, I think he could get in at the likes of Man United or something like that. But I just picture him going back somewhere in Europe now and kind of.
I think if he was able to pitch in with those goals more often, I think he'd get into our team because it'd take the pressure off the front boys,
It was just bits and starts, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. Let's switch it up a bit here and finish up with the Copa America. Brazil with a great 4-0 win against Peru. Obviously, Fabinho and Roberto featured. Fabinho and Fabinho. But Becker was an unused sub. But that's now too harmful.
Still Brazil. For any Man City fan looking and saying, Air Edison is broken, he hasn't. It was just a case of he got a game. Alisson Becker is number one. He'll always be number one for Brazil unless he loses both his hands and legs. But because it's funny, we were only talking about this for 2 or 3 weeks ago that apparently the Brazil lads were saying we don't want to play in the tournament. And I read last week that they've made peace with everyone and blah blah blah. Look, the Brazil play well and there's a few of the Liverpool lads involved, and the confidence is high again. And it's a case of they have the little family break. They haven't been home in over the year. Alisson, with what he went on with his father and all stuff like that. It's only a case of it's good for Liverpool as well. They have that break. They switch off with their family and then they come back to. We'd imagine that the atmosphere at the new Liverpool complex is going to be buzzing. Come pre-season, getting Champions League football, a few fresh faces. Jurgen Klopp waiting at the gate with that massive fucking smile on his mental head. It's probably a good thing rather than not playing football for said amount of time. The only thing I'll talk about is off the subject is we still haven't heard about what's going on with Mo Salah and the Olympics. Apparently, there's going to be one final sit down with the Egyptian FA and Liverpool. Liverpool don't want him to go because he hasn't had a break in so long. He's not really throwing his toys out of pram. He said he'd like to go, but I don't think he'll make a big fuss about it if he doesn't go. So that's the only kind of thing that I'm keeping an eye on at the moment.
Yeah, it should be interesting because there's a lot of talk maybe that the Olympics mightn't even go ahead. I mean, that's a lot of the talk that's going around at the moment.
Not looking good at the moment, is it?
No, not really. They seem to be having a lot more outbreaks out there and the numbers seem to be very high, which was part of the reason of the players in terms of talking to the Copa America as well, you know what I mean? But it looks like those South American countries are getting their act together in terms of COVID and stuff like that now, so that's why these things are going ahead. But as always, a pleasure having you on again for our show, Shankly Sessions, where we give the viewers our weekly dose of everything Liverpool FC. Craig will be back with us next week, as always. The Upper Tier Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube for all these weekly episodes in relation to football. Anchor for audio versions of the show. If you want to hit up the show or drop a comment in there, if there's anything we missed this week, anything that we didn't discuss, or a transfer,
or you want to slag Man United in the comment section, walk away.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If you want to have a laugh at Everton and talk about Carlo Ancelotti and Calvert-Lewin going to Madrid and good stuff like that, not a problem at all. As always, if you want to hit up the show, we're on Twitter at Sessions Shankly. Hit us up there as well, where the shows, you'll always find them there on Twitter as well. This has been your weekly Shankly Session show. Until next week, cheers, bud.
See you later, my man. Take care.